I really regret my role in the culture war. After a lot of reflection over those events, I realized that I never should have engaged with that discussion at all. I wish I had been kinder. I wish I had been more fair. I wish I had shown more love and humanity. And I wish that I had shown more empathy. I still think that I had made a handful of really good points over the years, and I believe my heart was in the right place with my initial motivation to get involved, at least. But I got out of the culture war and divorced myself from that discussion when I realized that there was no room for nuance in that discussion. And I got out when I realized that my videos were being used to embolden and strengthen positions that I did not agree with. And I realized that all I was doing was supporting something that I do not agree with. But in my opinion, I think that the entire environment created around the culture war completely regressed all meaningful discussion around social issues. Everything always ended up devolving into just a hate match. And both sides were guilty of doing this. I actually got involved originally because I didn't like the way that identity politics were being used to divide everybody. And that was like my mainstay argument, that we need to stop splitting everybody up into groups. That's nonsensical. But the culture war divided everyone into groups, and then identity politics were weaponized against us. No matter what the discussion was about or how heated the argument would get, it seems like all sides would unanimously agree that identity politics are still valid and should be used in this argument. And essentially, by agreeing to this, everyone is saying that it's valid to use identity politics to dismiss someone. It's valid to use identity politics to dismiss an entire group of people. That offends me. And all of this was usually done in the name of protecting something, like protecting a marginalized group, or maybe protecting a right or a freedom or something, sometimes a tradition. But in reality, all of that defending and protecting was just posturing designed to justify hating and dismissing other people. I think when you boil down a lot of the biggest characters and the loudest voices on both sides of the culture war, it was really just a lot of hateful people looking for justification to hate other people. And I think in the end, a lot of those people were just celebrated for being hateful and spiteful. It seemed like everyone was in this race to dehumanize other people, to find groups of people they don't like and strip them of their rights and their freedoms, or even just straight up deny their experience or deny their pain. And everyone was doing this in the name of protecting their own rights and freedoms. I feel like back then, the argument that I was making the most often was stop taking away someone else's freedom, because in doing that, you're taking that freedom away from yourself. But I guess the way that I packaged it and the people that I was surrounding myself with, it still made it seem like I was very firmly on a specific side on these issues. But I feel pretty confident that the culture war as a whole was basically just used and designed to divide humanity. It definitely was not designed to heal us. It was definitely not designed to help us heal our culture or heal our connection with each other. It definitely wasn't helping us understand how to love each other or to respect each other's vulnerabilities. Nobody was really trying to give us the tools to help understand how to love each other's differences, or respect each other, or love each other for our pain or our trauma. There was no humanity in that debate back then. There was definitely no humanity in the way that militant hordes of keyboard warriors would scour the internet. Random people, normal people, were just getting raked across the coals in public, sometimes by big names, simply for expressing innocent and sincere expressions of themselves. For me, this all started in about 2014, when I was still in the atheist community. I joined the atheist community at the time because it used to be about encouraging debate, encouraging free thought, questioning the world, questioning the universe. The atheist community seemed dead set on finding the truth. And it was all about free thought and free expression. And not only that, but atheism came with its own brand of activism called humanism. Sure, humanism wasn't perfect, but the point is that these weren't heartless people. They more or less wanted the best for humanity. But just as I was becoming acquainted with atheism and humanism as a whole, a new movement started growing inside of the atheist community called Atheism Plus. This is when things started getting weird. Atheism Plus sounded perfect on the surface. It was against sexism, racism, homophobia. I'm on board with all of those fights. Atheism Plus sort of presented itself to us as like a younger, hipper, more energetic form of activism. So it at least sounded more fun. But to our complete surprise, the movement came with a whole bunch of bullying. It didn't really make sense that this community that was really well known for having fair debates and open discussions was suddenly bullying each other over these subjects. Subjects that we've discussed before. Like, something broke in the atheist community almost overnight. The whole conversation itself split the entire atheist community right down the middle. And the way that it manifested in the discussions was really strange. I'd never seen anything like it before. Anytime somebody would debate a topic or question the logic of a more over-the-top assertion created by a leader of the Atheist Plus community, that person would get chastised and then shut down by the whole rest of the community. Sometimes they would get triangulated, and often they would even get banned. Sometimes people would get banned just for asking a question. The very idea of not just accepting things that were asserted suddenly became a sin in the atheist community. Something wasn't right. When I started on YouTube as the Armoured Skeptic, all I really wanted to do was have discussions, be part of debates, and tell stories. And the very first video I made on this channel back in 2014 as the Armoured Skeptic was a story that I created in order to vent frustration that I was feeling about this Atheism Plus movement coming in and sort of dividing the atheist community.
But some of the more prolific and dynamic members of the group were getting banned from participating and publicly shamed. The first one that AJ noticed was Thunderfoot. Sure, Thunderfoot's opinions were not always popular, but it hardly seemed logical to excommunicate him for speaking his mind. A few people asked questions about it. It wasn't long before they started getting banned as well. Although his questions were not ambiguous, made no implications, and had the best intentions, AJ quickly found himself on the receiving end of endless public shaming, bashing, and name-calling.
I felt like the atheist community was just hijacked by this thing, whatever it was. And at first, I thought it was just that one side. At first, I thought it was the progressivism that was the problem, not the ideas that they were expressing, but their militant attitude towards protecting and defending and villainizing against people that have questions or want to debate against those subjects. And the reason this divide was happening, at least from my perspective at first, was because people were resisting or defending against these new bullying tactics. And there was just two halves of atheism now. The side that wanted to be militant about social issues, and the side that just wanted to maintain that old flavor of atheism, having open discussions, having open debates, and questioning the universe around us. And it seemed like a whole bunch of people just wanted to pick sides. Like, everybody wanted to just be angry. And it seemed like both sides were just really angry. One of the reasons that I felt that I was in the middle of this fight and not on one of the sides is because my motivation for joining the debate in the first place seemed completely different from the way that the debate was even being conducted. See, I didn't like the way that these new progressives were employing identity politics, policing language, using logical fallacies, and even attacking their opponents directly. And if there's one thing I feel that I never got justice for in that debate, was that I was never seen for having that position, even though I would frequently speak out against that behavior.
Laura Loomer walks onto the stage and starts yelling at the actors, claiming to be protesting their portrayal of Trump and conservatives.
You are all garbled!
What you're witnessing is a huge double standard being exercised, and basic human rights being violated, namely the right to freedom of speech. Laura was the one who was willfully and knowingly interrupting a play, hijacking their stage, and violating their right to free speech. Some of the same people who complain that the left is trying to censor them are justifying this event as necessary. That's the double standard. Look at this shit. Pick a side. It's this pick a side shit again. And I'm f***ing sick of it. This isn't a left versus right thing. This is not a sides thing. This isn't me pushing alt-centrism. This is simply a pro-free speech versus anti-free speech discussion. This is about being consistent with your beliefs. Everybody was sick of the way that the left was acting, and now your goal is to act exactly like them. Do you really lack any self-awareness? They did it, so we can do it. That's a mentality you're supposed to grow out of before you're f***ing 6. Do you want people to join your side? Then actually live up to the standards you expect others to live up to.
Both sides seemed really happy to play it off like a big, passionate fight. It's like everyone was hungry for that fight. And I think that that's why the term culture war was able to stick so quickly and so efficiently, is because everybody involved in that debate was already feeling like they were part of a war. But I also feel that that's what everybody involved wanted. Everyone wanted there to be this passionate fight. They wanted there to be argument. They wanted to have an enemy to point at and say, that's the reason I don't have happiness. That's the reason my side or my group is unsuccessful in the world, or that's the reason why I'm feeling this pain, or that's the reason I've endured all this trauma. And I feel like I was watching that social movement as it grew over the years, right from its very inception. And it seemed like the whole internet was slowly getting taken over by this debate. And every individual community across the internet was getting divided over this debate. The entire internet seemed to devolve into these angry mobs that were set to demonize and villainize anybody who said the wrong thing or used the wrong catchphrase or used the wrong word, anybody that was employing the wrong language. And anytime somebody saw something like that, their response would be to say, "What are you, a social justice warrior? What are you, alt-right?" Oh, God. Are people still doing that? I joked about this a few times in the past, but the day that I knew for sure that something was wrong was when even the furry community was debating these issues on their forums. Even the subgroups of subgroups of subgroups were divided and debating these things. Nothing was safe or sacred on the internet anymore. You couldn't just log into your little cubby group and be safe to express yourself anymore. You couldn't just log into your favorite forum and discuss your favorite subject anymore. Because if you say the wrong thing, all of a sudden a mob of people jump into your discussion and start bullying you for being a feminist, or bullying you for being a misogynist or something. Or they try to get you angry about something that's happening to some marginalized group, or try to get you angry that some right or freedom is being stolen from you. Everyone's an enemy, and everyone's just out there trying to steal your rights from you. But the thing that I was most offended by was everyone's behavior. It was abhorrent. Everyone on every side seemed to have this totally calloused disregard for humanity. There was so little humanity in that online environment. Now, I know I've not been on Twitter in the last 4 years or whatever, but I can only imagine that that's worse now. But at the time, it was just like awful. I got sad every time I posted something because the replies were people that didn't really want to have a discussion. They just wanted to say quippy, edgy things, and it was just made me feel very defeated. Anytime you actually tried to have a properly nuanced discussion, it would just get stolen from you, and in the process, it would just steal all your energy for that subject. It's like, that was the point, is don't allow nuance, and just beat everybody down to the point where they just don't have the energy anymore to get their point across. But it seemed like there were these hordes of people that were scouring the whole internet. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Tumblr, everything. They were just trying to find anything they didn't like just to get angry about it. And if they couldn't yell about it in the comments, then they'd maybe make a video about it or make a post of their own, trying to get like a hate mob to jump on it. And that was most people's introduction to the culture war, is that they'd just be on the internet minding their own business. They'd post something totally innocent, and then a hate mob would descend down on them and start demonizing them. And usually these people had no idea what the hell was going on, because they weren't part of the culture war. They just were using the words they knew how to use to describe the thing they were trying to describe, usually to a very small audience or a very small collection of followers. And then people would only find out that that was even said at all because somebody big would come along and then blow it up to make it a big deal. And all of that was usually because they posted something innocent that just happened to trigger some famous person that had a mob following. There were just a lot of petulant children, and this is how they conducted themselves. And I've heard a lot of testimonials that played out this exact same way. I interviewed someone about her experience back in 2015 when she was just randomly hit by fallout from the culture war, just blindsided by one of these hate mobs. She said, "When I was younger, I often turned to social media to express my experiences, feelings, and thoughts. It served as a way for me to process what I was going through and carve out a small personal space. However, I remember a time when a post of mine drew the attention of self-proclaimed anti-feminists who not only shared my post, but also launched personal attacks against me. It was deeply humiliating and felt entirely unjustified. I was simply a young girl expressing myself. I wasn't pretending to be an authority on anything. It seemed that every time I shared something, I faced conflict in the comments, or my intentions were completely misconstrued. Also, growing up in an activist household, I was particularly affected by the rise of new wave protests. Rather than fostering dialogue or raising awareness about particular issues, these protests frequently descended into a spectacle of anger and mutual accusations. It became an event of opposing groups clashing, disregarding each other's perspectives, engaging in verbal abuse, and incessant arguments. I saw firsthand people being harmed, and those professing to safeguard others often ended up endangering them instead. It was awful to see people treat each other in such a dehumanizing way. And as the culture war progressed, I lost total control of my own identity online. It just suddenly got taken away from me. Back in like 2016, 2017, the public started creating their own version of me with his own backstories and his own characteristics. And no matter how hard I tried, I could not separate myself from that fake version of me that everybody was angry about. No matter how nuanced I would be, and no matter how clear I would try to make it that I'm not trying to pick a side, they would tell blatant lies about me and just make up totally fabricated stories about me, and then just all collectively get angry at that fake version of me. And I didn't know how to stop that, so I just ignored that. But I feel like that same thing still happens today. Like, I can make a video where I just tell a story and I try to make it fun, but somehow people just get angry about it. They just want to be angry. And I'm not out here trying to push anything. I'm not trying to put the 10 Commandments on the front steps of City Hall or anything, but people are acting like I'm out here pushing some political agenda when all I'm doing is just having fun, doing my own thing. And that's sort of what the culture war does to people. They just want to see everything as an enemy, and they can't enjoy something for what it is. They can't just accept something for what it is. It must be part of this culture war. It must be part of some agenda to strip somebody of their rights, or to make people ignorant, or to push God in government or anything, when I've never tried to do anything like that. I didn't feel like trying to fight that fake version of me that everyone created would do me any good. And I didn't really know at the time how to show the real me on YouTube. I'm still only just learning. I'm only just now learning how to show people the real me on YouTube. I definitely didn't know how to be vulnerable and sincere back then. So I just kind of left it. I didn't even understand where to start. So after I got out of the culture war, not really knowing where to go, I just decided to hide behind my characters and just tell some fun stories. And I prefer doing art now. I prefer making art. That's much more fulfilling than getting involved in some debate or trying to push some specific worldview. I'd rather just have fun expanding my mind and just thinking about new things and playing around with ideas. That is constructive. Arguing with each other about who to hate the most is not constructive. I just wanted to take a minute to thank my patrons for supporting me. I could not do this without you guys. I love you so much. You're keeping food on my table. If you're interested in supporting me or my channel, please consider becoming a patron or a channel member, or just toss me a donation on PayPal. Some of you might have heard about the supposed skeptic community, a collection of weird characters that have silly heads on suits. This is something that I made fun of a lot of times back then, because this is not a real thing, and I was never part of this. In fact, most of these idiots, I don't like them at all. I used to call them all skeptic clones, and that was my way of sort of separating myself from them. Just saying, hey, they're all like copying my gig. They're all just trying to mimic my style, but they're not actually representative of me, my brand, my worldview, my opinions, my heart, my soul, nothing. I was completely removed from this group. Yet anything they did, I was still held accountable for them. Like, I actively and intentionally created this community of skeptics. But most of them weren't skeptics at all, because they didn't make atheist content. They pretty much only made socio-political content. And I don't know how you can be a skeptic of socio-political ideas. It doesn't make any sense. I was just a skeptic because I was a skeptic. But the idea of skeptic went from being skeptical of anything and everything, like me, and it suddenly became, you're skeptical of feminism, or skeptical of Black Lives Matter, or just like anything that was considered progressive. Suddenly I'm now skeptical of, simply because other people have used that title, skeptic, to describe their skepticism of those things. I hated that. But making fun of them and calling them skeptic clones was really the only thing I could do to separate myself from them. But basically, they made it look like I was the leader of some edgelord community. And again, there was nothing I could do to separate myself from that image. No matter what they did, they would try to make it look like in some way I was responsible for it. And that just sucked, because so many of them were just awful people. They would just say awful things. Anyways, the point is that the things that the skeptic clones did offended me a lot. And the things that they said offended me a lot. I really hate the way that they took a format that was originally designed to create open discussion about issues, to encourage debate. Basically, a format that was used to create discussion had been corrupted into something that was destroying discussion. They'd taken a format that I loved so much, and they turned it into something disgusting, as a way to bully people. They just wanted to bully people that had different opinions than them. They just wanted to bully people for thinking different things from them. Another thing that made me kind of want to leave the culture war and stop debating about that is when the term reactionary and reactionary politics started getting thrown around. I'd never heard that before. And I started wondering, oh, does that describe me in any way? And when I started feeling convicted against that term, it made me realize that I'm not doing the right thing here at all. I need to get out of this. This is not smart, this is not healthy, this is not helping. This has just become a form of entertainment in and of itself. And just the fact that people could be coming to watch my videos just to fulfill that desire to see reactionary content, that bothered the hell out of me. That offended me, that any of my audience could be that. And I just didn't want an audience like that. I want an audience that likes to think. I want an audience that likes to have fun playing with ideas. I want an audience that loves to expand their thoughts, expand their mind, expand their spirit, their soul, their heart. And I want an audience that is trying to improve themselves the same way I like to believe I'm trying to improve myself. And a lot of those attitudes just do the opposite. They have the entirely opposite effect. One anti-feminist that frustrated the hell out of me was Bearing. I could not stand Bearing. I don't know that you could really consider him a Skeptic clone. He did a lot of similar stuff though. He was basically like a really boiled down version of that. But Bearing would upload multiple times a week with the exact same low effort garbage, just bottom of the barrel stuff with almost no editing at all. And the way he conducted himself, it made it clear that he was just scouring the internet all day, going through trending or just looking for the word feminist or feminism in the YouTube search. It seemed like his whole career was just searching the internet for people to make fun of. That seemed pathetic. That's a grift. One time he found this random video of a woman who was telling some story about her friend, but ultimately the point of the story was just to convey that she wished that her friend had received better treatment. That's it. She just wished her friend was treated better. And Bearing took that video and he chose to project feminism into that. He decided that this woman must be a feminist and she must be talking about feminism simply because her hair was blue. That was it. She never mentioned feminism once in her video and never one time brought up a single feminist talking point, but because her hair was blue, Bearing said that she was a feminist and then mocked her and dismissed her entirely on the basis that she's a feminist. That was insane. I couldn't believe that that kind of stuff was even real. I couldn't believe that that kind of stuff was happening on the internet. But that wasn't the only time Bearing did that. He did it a whole bunch of times. The worst example is when he did it to some random 16-year-old girl or whatever, and she was sitting in her bedroom with her like gymnastics trophies behind her, and she says the most agreeable thing ever. She says something that I've said a million times. She said the same thing that a million egalitarians have said a million times. She said, "I am not a feminist, but I think people deserve equal rights. I am not a feminist, but I believe people deserve equal treatment." That's all she said. I don't know how you could disagree with that. Other anti-feminists would say that exact thing all the time when debating against feminists. It was tone deaf that Bearing would even make this video at all. It's like he wasn't thinking about it. He was just looking for some sort of statement about equality and some girl making that statement simply so he could paint her as an enemy against freedom or some shit. Anyways, because Bearing made this video response to her, a mob of his own followers ended up going over to her channel and bullying her in the comments until she ended up deleting her entire channel, which, by the way, only had like a few hundred followers, and likely all of them were just students at her f***ing school. And then that whole situation ended up blowing up in Bearing's face to the point where even he deleted his video on her. That was not a proud moment in anti-feminism, guys. But nobody ever talked about that. Nobody, especially within the anti-feminist community, ever talked about how other anti-feminists would cross the line like that. I would often try to make videos like this. I'd want to make videos like this, but my own peers would end up talking me out of it. And that's another huge regret that I have, that I ever let people shame me for my opinion, and that I ever let people shame me for wanting to speak out about this stuff. Whenever I would make a video response, I'd do my best to punch up. I would either make a video response to someone who had a way bigger channel or a way bigger following than me, or at very least I'd be picking a subject matter or a video that was already really popular or was already maybe even trending from time to time. But I would try my best to avoid punching down, especially if that person had less than 100,000 followers. I wouldn't touch them at all. And a lot of these anti-feminists were going after people that only had like a few hundred or maybe a couple thousand subscribers. And there's no sport in that. That's not fun to just mock random people. Like, I can't believe that even f***ing happened. Was that even real? It's like that whole time period is not even real. But whenever people would try to talk me out of making content like that, calling out other creators for crossing the line, they'd make it sound like they're trying to protect me. maybe protect my channel. But no, I was just being manipulated to protect something else, some image or some narrative, or usually it was because they wanted to protect the person I wanted to make the video about. And I should take that as even more reason not to care, and that I should just be calling out everyone that I don't like now. But making content like this is a symptom of the issue that I'm talking about. That the idea that anger had become so prevalent that the very discussion itself and the way that everybody was conducting themselves in the culture war debate, it was normalizing having angry discussions. It was normalizing being hateful. Just the idea of expressing anger was normalized in a really scary way. But also people's existing anger was being exploited and exacerbated. People were being drawn in because of the anger they were holding on to. And I think that that's how I got sucked into the culture war debate initially as well, to be honest. I had just gotten out of a really abusive marriage, and I found out that my entire family had been triangulating me behind my back the entire time, and it was just bad. I was confused and lost and scared and angry and frustrated, and I didn't know what to do. My entire world had just collapsed around me back in 2015, and I was struggling with my identity. I didn't know where I belonged. I didn't even know who to trust anymore. I was confused, hurt, and angry. I let myself become a shitty person because I felt like the whole world was just shitty. And I thought, well, that justifies it. That's my only move here, is just to become the villain that everyone wants me to be. I used my pain as justification to be a bully. And that's the biggest regret that I have in my entire life. I wish that I had healed my own trauma instead of just weaponizing it against other people, especially others that clearly have trauma. If anything, we're supposed to be on the same team here. We should be helping each other, not fighting each other. But the most embarrassing part is that I let myself get tricked into thinking that I was important. I tricked myself into thinking I was relevant just because I had some followers. And the arrogance that I developed from that was not good. I did not realize back then what a prevalent problem that bots were. But to be fair, I don't think anybody really understood how big a problem bots were. Today, we understand that about 50% of traffic on social media is bots, but we couldn't have really known what percentage that was back then. And for all we know, it was 100%. It was 75%. The point is, back then, we always assumed that everything we were seeing and everything we were reading was entirely sincere and organic and real people giving their real opinions. Oh no, that's not what was happening. And we just assumed that premise because social media is supposed to be about the social aspect of humanity. It's supposed to be a place where people can socialize. It's supposed to be a mixing pot of all the opinions and all the beliefs and all the types of people. And in theory, it's a place where you can have those kinds of discussions. But it turns out that social media is really more social engineering. And that a lot of those comments, a lot of those posts, a lot of replies to your own content are fake people that are stirring up shit. It's fake comments that are designed to make you angry or convince you to keep going down the same useless rabbit hole, or even just to make you sad and try to make you give up on what you're doing. If you're another creator like me, I challenge you to sort of think back at some of the feelings you've had about comments over the years, good, bad, and ugly, and just try to forgive yourself for believing all the hype in your comments section, because a lot of that wasn't real. And even the stuff that was real, those people were being equally influenced by those bots. They were just going with the flow. A lot of that just wasn't real. A lot of that was designed to make us angry and designed to keep us hating each other and weaponizing our trauma against each other. But I'm a sensitive guy. I can be really sensitive. And if I saw a comment that would say something bad, it would hurt me. And that would maybe even affect my decisions in future videos, or just the way I conduct myself in general. Or if somebody bullied me in my comments section, it would make me less likely to bring up certain issues in future videos. I'd be too afraid to address them again because I wouldn't want to get bullied again. But how many times did I do that with a fake comment that was just auto-generated by some bot? That's pathetic behavior. I can't believe I ever let myself conduct myself that way. But all the fake good comments were bad too, because they led to my delusion that I was relevant, or that I'm some leader of some social movement, or that people turn to me for insight or guidance, or that my words are gonna matter and something in the future is gonna change if I just say the right thing and convince the right people. But maybe half the comments on those videos were just bots. Maybe half the views those videos got were bots, for all I know. Maybe those bots were intentionally trying to create a perception that my viewpoints were relevant in order to push some greater agenda. Maybe it was just that I was helping stoke the fire of the debate, and I was keeping the culture war relevant, and I was keeping people fighting each other. Maybe that's all it was, is I was just doing my part to keep the culture war going. The YouTube algorithm also created a huge incentive to keep making content on the culture war issues. I promise you that Google itself was trying really hard to push the more progressive viewpoints. They were paying several progressive YouTubers directly with grant money in order to make video essays and even reply videos. I met a handful of YouTube essayists that were getting grant money from Google directly to make their content. But the YouTube algorithm was also incentivizing people on the other side of the argument to continue making content. YouTube's algorithm was rewarding videos even dissenting against that progressive viewpoint with extra views, and those videos just seemed really relevant because the comment sections would be bloated. The algorithm was incentivizing people to make anti-social justice warrior and anti-feminist content by rewarding them with views. That happened, and all that attention definitely went to my head, so I can only imagine it went to everyone's head. On all sides. I can tell from my channel analytics that YouTube was recommending my videos a lot back then. And when I deleted all the videos that I don't agree with anymore, I lost at least 10 million views, if not more. The point is, those topics were hot. And it looked like, the perception was that the public really wanted to talk about those issues. That was the perception. And in that environment, I let myself believe that I was important just because I was getting a bunch of views. And in reality, none of that was even real. In the end, it was all just a delusion. And I let myself get played like a rube. Like I said, I tried to sort of differentiate myself from any of the sides by calling myself a centrist. And I thought I was so clever doing that. But eventually it got to the point where everyone in the debate would start demanding that you pick a side. And if you didn't pick a side, they would just ascribe a side to you. So both sides would just see me as one of their enemies, regardless of what I would say. So I didn't have anyone in my camp anymore. I don't know who my audience is. And I don't even really know what I'm arguing for anymore. Mainly, I just didn't want to be seen as right-wing. I didn't want to be seen as a social justice warrior either, but I was more offended at the idea of being connected to the right. That was the accusation I would fight against the most. But everyone was so obsessed with sides that everyone would just see me as a mouthpiece for their enemy, regardless of their position. And I think that if there's a sign that maybe I was doing something right, the fact that everyone hated me was a pretty good sign. Probably means that I was a little bit more nuanced than everyone else, but still, never should have gotten involved. But that's just another way that I lost control of my identity, is that no matter how hard I tried, nobody actually cared about what I was saying. Nobody actually cared about the arguments I was making or the things I was trying to say. They only cared that I was keeping the culture war relevant. They only cared that I was giving energy to that debate. And they cared that they could either use my work to embolden their position, or they could use my work to paint some attitude about some enemy. Like I said, the point of the culture war was not to actually push progressive ideas, and the point of the culture war was not actually to defend freedom or tradition or whatever. The point of the culture war was to fight the culture war forever. The point of the culture war is to drown out all nuance and to drown out all sincere expressions of humanity and love. The culture war was pushed on us as a way to keep us from discussing more meaningful issues, or to find some sort of camaraderie among all the different groups and realize maybe we have a shared enemy that's making things bad for everybody. The culture war was designed to stop us from loving each other. The culture war was designed to stop us from understanding that we can heal from our trauma, and that we can actually make our lives better. Another thing that I've always wanted to discuss, I wanted to make a video about this a long time ago. Here's some real dirt for the drama machine for you. Sometimes I would have video ideas suggested to me by some of my peers. At the time, I thought it was an organic thing. I was dumb enough to think that my peers actually liked my channel. I let myself believe that when they would talk about how much they love my videos and they can't wait to see me do a video on this topic, I thought that they were being sincere. I thought that they really liked the way I talked about things. What a dummy. No, they didn't like my videos at all. They were just trying to get me to push stuff because someone above them, some sort of handler, gave them that video topic, and either they can't use it themselves or their job is to get as many people to talk about that video subject as possible as a way to get the algorithm to push that video subject. Also that they can make it look like that subject is relevant in the algorithm. And that's one of the things that all of those bots, as well as a bunch of content creators, were part of, is manipulating the algorithm to make certain things look relevant when they really weren't. Sometimes we were getting angry about stuff as if it was this new issue that we have to deal with in society. Meanwhile, the rest of the world doesn't even know that that's happening. It's a fake issue that was artificially lifted up in the algorithm and pushed in our face just to make us angry. But yeah, the guys, they would come to me and they'd be like, "Hey, Greg, isn't it crazy that this thing happened? Boy, you should really make a video on this. That would be great. I can't wait to see it." I don't know exactly how many of my videos were made that way, but I'd say at least 5 of the videos that I deleted, I made because somebody in my peer group suggested it to me. And then later I realized, oh no, this was just some propaganda. I'm only talking about this because they want me to get people angry about this. Yeah, I didn't get it at the time, but I get it now that my peers were being fed those subjects by someone else. Oh, and sometimes progressive creators would also trick me into getting involved in a subject by implying to their audience that I was already involved. And stupid me, I'd come along and I'd be like, actually, I'm not involved, but if you want to know my opinion, this is what I think. Yeah, that was stupid. That Milo video I did is a perfect example of that. Like, Milo is just some kid. What was I thinking responding to some kid? The only reason I got involved in that discussion is because ContraPoints told her whole audience that I was some edgy skeptic, atheist, anti-social justice warrior that was bullying this person. And my response to that was to say, no, I'm not. And then I just turned around and bullied that person. That was not a proud moment. Don't worry, all those videos are gone now, but I'm just humiliated that I ever participated in that. But the point I'm making is that the reason that so many creators were making the exact same content back then was because they were all being fed those videos from the same sources. The same pipelines were telling all the same creators to make subjects relevant. I just thought that you should know about that so that you understand that that's a thing that happens here. But after I realized that I was not a good person, and that I was not doing a good thing, and that I had let the algorithm and the bots trick me into thinking that I was good just because I was getting a bunch of attention, I started to realize that, yeah, all the people around me are bad. A lot of the things happening around me are bad. I realized that I was a villain that had been causing harm for years. I realized that I was feeding that very machine that I was complaining was dividing people. I was dividing people. So that's why I left that genre, and that's why I deleted all those videos. And I really hope that more YouTube creators realize that they're being used that exact same way. People across all social media platforms are being used that exact same way. YouTube is a lie. So one thing you need to understand is that YouTube used to be such a different platform back in the day. YouTube changed so slowly, they boiled the frog so slowly, that most of us didn't realize that the site had changed until it was too late. Like for example, back in the day, you used to be able to customize your channel a little bit, make it a little bit more unique, kind of like you used to be able to do on all social media platforms. The whole internet used to be kind of different back then though. It was a lot less aggressive, a lot less chaotic. It seemed like people respected each other more, and just people were coming to the platforms with a completely different attitude. They wanted to have fun. They wanted to express themselves. They wanted to share their uniqueness. They wanted to show off their talent. And then somehow, within the period of maybe about 5 years, it just became a place to argue and get angry and get sad. And all the people that had unique talent and that were actually beautiful creators, they ended up getting scared off of all of those platforms. And then the few places that they had that they could go, those places ended up getting removed from the internet entirely. Some big megacorp or something would come along and either make it unprofitable for them by outdoing them on a different site, or they would just buy that site out and then shut it down. The most important point is that YouTube used to be a social media site. It actually had social media features. I remember that I really enjoyed discussing things and making friends with other creators. The website doesn't even allow you to really do that anymore. Like, this social media site is not social anymore. And no, the comments do not count. I think I explained that already. So there used to be direct messages on YouTube. Creators could message each other directly. They could develop relationships with each other. They could let each other know that they like each other's stuff. And it made it so much easier for them to network together and to collaborate together. That kind of thing used to be so much more fluid and frequent. Creators in general just seemed to be able to get along better. They all wanted to be friends with each other and impress each other and share each other's audiences even. So creators used to be able to socialize back then. But now, you don't even know for sure if another creator is even seeing your comment in their comments section. That's how much this place has changed, is that stuff even gets hidden from creators instead of shared. And there used to be a whole thing called reply videos. Reply videos were the inspiration for the Armoured Skeptic videos. That was like a whole style of creation back then. The way reply videos worked was if somebody made a video making some sort of argument or debating something, you could make your own video in response to that, replying to the original creator. And if that original creator liked your video enough, they would put your reply underneath their video.
This is how you can do a video response to another video that you see on YouTube. Maybe someone who's just starting out could learn something and maybe get involved in the YouTube community. So we scroll down to this box, the response, click there, click on create a video response, and now you can choose one of your videos as a response. So I'll just do my generic response video. You'll see it's not there. That's because as the owner of this video, I have to approve the responses. So let's go to my inbox, video responses. Now I can approve it or ignore it. For this example, I'll approve it and scroll down. There we go. This is the generic response video.
There would be a whole box underneath a video showing all the other creators that were interacting with that original piece with their own videos. And then you'd get like these networks of different creators sharing all these different works from each other, all discussing the same thing. And that was a beautiful system because what it did was incentivize creators to be respectful with each other. Because if you were a bully, if you were mean, if you were not respectful to the original creator of the original video, then they would not put your response, they would not put your reply under their video. So if you are respectful, if you actually follow the rules of debate, then there's a much higher chance that the community will interact with those videos. And that's how those communities were grown. And those communities would essentially self-police because everyone was interested in keeping the discussion civil, and everyone was interested in making sure that nobody was just throwing around logical fallacies to push their point or to push their worldview. The entire community would, in theory, have access to the entire catalog of videos around that discussion, ensuring consistency and civility in that discussion. I miss old YouTube. And I sometimes even forget that that's what it used to be like. You could have the entire debate all tied up together in one little box. There was so much more accountability back then. People were even trying their best to be civil. I mean, think about it. There were multiple communities of people that all disagreed with each other, yet they were all getting along with each other on this platform. Historically, that should be considered monumental. That's a really big deal that we ever achieved that for even 1 second here. And that was my entire motivation for joining YouTube in the first place. I wanted to be part of that discussion. I wanted to be part of that community. I wanted to be a part of discourse. But all of that fairness and all of that community, it just evaporated. It just disappeared from the internet in the late 2010s. As both YouTube started rolling back and removing all of those social media features, as well as simultaneously the culture war was growing inside of the discourse of YouTube. And now the way it works is everything is so separated now, it's so hard to understand what content is tied together on this website that all the people are now separated. All the mindsets are now separated. Everybody just gets comfortable in their own little community and never sees anything outside of that viewpoint. That's kind of scary. Really, there are no more discussions or debates. People are just yelling over each other, and people are just villainizing each other so that they can use them as a platform to make some argument, or just keeping each other angry at each other for the sake of creating passion and anger in the culture war. Even the media is like that now. Like, everyone's devolved into clickbait. I think like the whole internet and all the media understands now that you get more engagement when you're divisive. You get more engagement when you're trying to create drama around something. So nuance is just not even celebrated as a profitable thing. The mainstream media uses clickbait titles that a 14-year-old edgelord would have used back in like 2015. It seems like ideas are not even presented to us anymore before they thought of a way to divide us on it. Like, you'll even hear them say that on the news. Oh, we're very divided right now. We're two peoples right now. But by continuing to say that, they're reinforcing that. They're keeping it that way. And they're also playing their role in making sure that we have someone to hate or someone to fear or someone to blame for all of our problems. Some enemy that's out there that's stopping us from progressing forward. That's how every idea is presented to us now in the media. Something that I had to come to understand as I learned it about myself is that a lot of the people that are even getting involved in the culture war debate in the first place are coming at this debate from a position of trauma. A lot of people, including myself, were seeing everything through the lens of trauma, filtered through a lens of pain, fear, and confusion. So the culture war equally proposed a lot of ideas as being opposed to each other. Like, you couldn't just talk about a men's issue or a woman's issue. No, the conversation would always devolve into men versus women. And the thing about trauma is it can create confusion about seeing other people get special treatment. Like, some people in the culture war debate were just hurt that their own identity group wasn't being protected in some way. And when they were seeing that some other identity group was getting some sort of special love, some sort of special treatment, they would wonder why they're not getting that themselves. But why does it have to be men versus women? When we're talking about gender issues, why can't we just accept that there are men's issues and women's issues? And it's like men who had a traumatic life experience would see women getting special treatment, and they'd say, I'm not getting that special treatment for my trauma. I'm not getting that special treatment for my life experience. I don't get a special thing for my problems, so they should not get a special thing either. And I see this with a lot of different issues as well, like poverty, for example. Everyone seems to understand that there's a poverty issue, but nobody wants the tide to raise all ships. They just want their own identity group to get helped out. And they have some reason to justify hating and stopping every other group from getting help the same way. Everybody just gets angry about it, like they deserve it more, like they're affected more. That attitude is going to keep us all stuck. We have to stop that. We have to let go of that. We all need to help each other, recognize the issues that are affecting everyone, and help everyone heal from them. When I think about the way that most people conducted themselves in the culture war debate back then, they weren't really making the conversation about healing that trauma, or healing those issues that are causing problems in society, or trying to figure out why society has such ridiculous expectations out of both men and women, or why society treats any kind of group differently. Everyone just wanted to deny that any other group was suffering but their own. The entire debate would always just devolve into men versus women, hate versus hate, group versus group. It's almost like a game was being played with us to keep us all spinning our tires in the mud and chasing our tails, keeping us arguing with each other. It's like we were being kept from creating meaningful community. It's like we were kept from showing each other our own vulnerabilities and our humanity and treating each other with respect and love. We were all just being played for suckers. There was a small amount of airtime given to men's issues, but the history of that is kind of chaotic and it's sort of evolved into something disgusting. I'm sure that a few of you will remember the film The Red Pill. That was sort of given to us as the men's issues film. In retrospect, I have a lot of issues with that.
Declaring the month of October to be Bash a Violent Month.
I decided to go where no feminist has gone before and meet these men's rights activists.
I did a review on that film, if you remember.
You'll see how easy it is to just dismiss men's rights activists right off the bat. Especially off of the website, they use such crude and aggressive language. They really come off as just ass. And in person, they seem really timid and shy and almost like they have victim complexes. Both Paul Elam and Dean Esme are in this film, and they're both on their best behavior. And Karen Strawn is also in this film. And even though she is visibly drunk, she makes very lucid points.
Yeah, that was one of those video subjects that I sort of had handed to me, more or less. I was very heavily encouraged to make that review, and I think I understand why now. That film was made to create a very specific image around the idea of men's issues, as well as paint men's rights activists in a specific light. The Red Pill film is really weird now that I think of it. The director makes the film all about herself and her discovery of the idea of men's issues as a whole. The film even has a conversion story. She's supposed to be a feminist that's learning about men's issues for the first time, taking the red pill for the first time. That whole concept is really insincere. And even just the idea of the red pill in and of itself is dumb. It makes men's issues sound like some quippy meme. It doesn't actually make it sound like a serious problem. And even though the film does pay some lip service to a handful of men's issues, it really only uses that as a framing device to focus on a handful of specific men's rights activists, as well as the director herself. The film is really more about the egos of those people and those individual personalities than it is about men's issues. It almost doesn't care about men's issues. It sort of just weaponizes the idea of people being ignorant about them. If you want a better film about men's issues, then I really strongly suggest you watch the film The Mask You Live In.
Stop crying.
Stop with the tears.
Don't cry. Pick yourself up.
Stop with the emotion.
Don't be a don't nobody disrespect you.
Be cool and be kind of a dick.
Always keep your mouth shut.
Nobody likes a tattletale.
Bros come before hoes.
Don't let your woman run your life.
You bitch.
What a get laid. Do something.
Be a man. Be a man. Grow some balls.
That was made back in 2014. I didn't realize that a film about men's issues had already been created right when I began my career as the Armoured Skeptic in 2014. If I had known that that film existed back then, before I had made any of that social commentary, it would have really strongly changed the course of my content. The Mask You Live In is also created by a feminist, except she doesn't put herself in the film at all. She makes the film genuinely about men's trauma and the unrealistic expectations that men experience from their families and from society. The Mask You Live In advocates for men's issues better than any other piece of media that I've ever seen in my life. And I can't believe that the men's rights community didn't spend more time championing this film and spreading the word. I kind of get the feeling that this film was buried. I kind of feel like this film was hidden from us. And I think that films like The Red Pill came out to sort of drown films like The Mask You Live In out. And the reason I believe that is because The Mask You Live In contradicts a lot of the narratives we heard around men's issues during the culture war. The Mask You Live In contradicts a lot of the attitudes that society has for men, and it contradicts a lot of the things discussed in the Red Pill film. When Cassie J says no feminist has ever done this before, I want to say that's a blatant lie, because the film The Mask You Live In was also produced and directed by a feminist, and it came out at least 3 years earlier in 2014. The men's rights activists are not exactly the same thing as the people that are interviewed in The Mask You Live In. When Cassie says she's the first feminist to do this, and these are the first men's rights activists to be interviewed, she's not saying that to be truthful, she's saying that to impress an idea. This movie is trying to make it look like these are men's rights activists now. These are the only ones. This is the brand you're supposed to look at. The very existence of a thing like men's rights activists completely changes the context of men's issues. It changes the context of men's issues from a discussion to a war. Now no longer can you bring up issues that are discussed in The Mask You Live In without someone assuming that you're some militant men's rights activist. Essentially though, the problem is that in a capitalist society, it's more profitable for capitalism if men are set on this impossible task to keep grinding and earning and supporting. And it's not beneficial for capitalism if we care about those men and that we expect any less from them than perfection in their role as builders of the world and supporters of families. I think that capitalism doesn't like when men are treated as humans, because then they earn less money if we actually learn to care about them and to feel empathy and sympathy for their trauma and their pain. Capitalism doesn't work very well if men are healed from their experiences and they're not set on that impossible task to prove themselves. Like I said though, if I had known that this film existed back then, it would have changed the course of my career. Because a lot of my motivation for getting involved in the culture war in the first place is because I was coming at it from a place of cynicism, assuming that such issues would never get discussed. Meanwhile, there was already a whole ass film about it. There's also another film called The Work about a community of men in a prison rehabilitation program that are trying to heal and come to terms with their pasts and learn about why they ended up becoming criminals, and they learn how to deprogram themselves from their pain and their trauma.
Zimbabwe, 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 Zimbabwe.
That film, The Work, is crazy, but you need to see it. And believe it or not, that film came out in 2018. And again, I should have seen it when it came out. and nobody told me it existed. Instead, I was told that films like that don't get made, and I just believed them. Like a dummy. I just let myself exist in that hate and that resentment and that cynicism, even though it was based on a lie. There's also another film called Happy Sad Man. I haven't seen that yet, but it looks really good. It looks very sincere, and it also came out in 2018.
When I think of masculinity, I often think about a weight of having to be a particular way. I don't know if it gives you the freedom to be yourself.
What guys will do, they'll make sure the car's right, they'll make sure the plumbing's right on the shed, they'll do all that stuff, but they don't do anything for themselves.
I'm so much happier in conflict zones than I am actually being in normal society.
It seems like I've just had this fun kind of life, but when things went real bad, I'd lost all sense of reality.
If you met 25-year-old John Anderson, would you hang out with him?
Well, that's a good question for anyone, isn't it? Would you hang out with yourself?
What the hell? Why did nobody see these films? I'm sure you remember that back in the day, whenever a men's rights activist would announce that they're doing some sort of a conference, or maybe there's a handful of men's rights activists that are doing some sort of speech or something at a university, there'd be a handful of feminists or feminist activists that would show up and shut those events down. They would protest them and say they're misogynistic. And a handful of times those feminist groups managed to successfully shut those talks down. In fact, that Red Pill film is a really good example. The director had it shut down at a couple of different showings because of feminists. But what I think doesn't get discussed enough, or at least noticed enough, is just how often it is that it's men shutting down men's talks and discussions about men's issues. Men shut down talks about supporting men's issues just as often, if not more often, than feminists do. Men have been the biggest enemy in overcoming men's issues, and that likely has a lot to do with denial and pride, I'm sure. Men, too proud to admit that as a man, they're subject to some absurd expectations from society. Men in denial that they're even affected by those things. Because as a man, you're not supposed to show that things affect you. As a man, you're supposed to pretend you're tough. People so complacent with the abuse and trauma that they've experienced that they justify it as a necessity to be accepted as their identity group. That's another attitude that's going to keep us stuck. That's another attitude that we have to let go of. What I'm saying is certain men see it as a rite of passage to have to endure certain types of bullshit. Some men see it as a rite of passage to be treated specific ways, to grind specific ways, to have to go through specific trials and tribulations. And that's bullshit. For example, there was a group of feminists that tried to open up a men's shelter, a place where men could go to escape whatever abusive situation they were in. And do you know who shut down that idea? Men. Men came along and said, no thank you, men don't need help. Like, what the fuck even is that? That's pride and denial. That's just pure arrogance. To think, well, I survived my shit, so someone else that went through something else doesn't need help with his. He should have to endure that and learn to get over it because I did. We live in a sick society. Everyone is suffering from the illogical abuse these systems and institutions inflict on us. Our goal should be to fix everything so that everyone can grow up in a healthy, secure society. Everyone deserves to live in a healthy, safe environment. Everyone deserves to be seen for who they are and accepted as a human. Everyone deserves empathy and love. And the people who are stopping us from achieving that are people who believe that their pain justifies someone else's suffering. Their pain justifies dismissing another human being's experience. Selfish people believe that because they had to suffer, other people should have to suffer too. Fuck that.